very warm welcome here to the Barony Hall for a very special occasion as we graduate these excellent graduands, as they currently are, arrayed before me and here on the stage behind us. And a warm welcome to families, friends and supporters. A wonderful occasion as always. The Barony Hall is always busy at this time of year. Strathclyde graduates about 4,500 students per annum. A wave of Strathclyde talent going out into the world to make a difference. And today is our first graduation ceremony of this year's season, so a particularly great occasion. We do many things in this hall. In fact, some of the students may remember we have examinations in here, so they may not have great fond memories so far, but you'll have great memories after today's ceremony. And so many of you have travelled here to be with us today. And be no doubt that this is one of the highlights of the calendar in academia, and certainly at Strathclyde, something we take very seriously and have with great joy. Something like 18 ceremonies this year. Now, we don't want this to be a sombre occasion. You're here to enjoy yourselves. And when your friends or your members of your family come across the stage, and I'll say something about that in a moment, do let them know you're here, within reason. So you can add to the applause and let them know Mum, Dad, Granny or friends are here as well, because we want to make sure it's a memorable occasion for you. And I stand before this piece of furniture. This is how we used to graduate students. I've knelt on this 3 times myself for this very piece of furniture for my bachelor's, master's and PhD. That's when we knelt before the Chancellor or the Vice-Chancellor, but we're a little bit more egalitarian these days. So I will look you in the eye, or at least I'll try to, from 5'9". Come along, you will be capped as you come along, and when I cap you, that you will be formally be conferring the degree towards you. And at that point, you'll receive your parchment and off you will go. We're going to have some update from me at the end of the formalities before we close the ceremony. But these occasions are always wonderful. They are particularly excellent when we have an additional matter to celebrate, where we have the opportunity often to celebrate the contributions of outstanding individuals who have made a great contribution to the profession, to society, to the economy. And we have one such person with us today, and that's Professor Dame Anne Johnson, about whom you will hear a little more in a moment. But again, please relax, enjoy yourselves. To the graduands who are about to become graduates of Strathclyde, many congratulations, enjoy your day, and I'll give you an update on the university shortly. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to declare this congregation open formally, and I'm going to invite Sir Harry Burns to introduce our honorary graduate to you today. Thank you very much indeed.
Principal, I have the honour to present to you Dame Anne Johnson. Dame Anne was born in Newcastle into a medical family, and deciding that she would follow the family tradition and become a doctor, she went to Cambridge University to study initially for a Bachelor of Arts degree in medical science. However, an interest in social and political sciences made her uncertain about continuing on to medicine, and instead she took a year off to travel to South America. In Venezuela, she spent time with the Yanomami, an indigenous people who lived in the Amazonian rainforest. This experience gave her insight into the importance of the environment and social status in ensuring well-being. Eventually, she returned to Newcastle to complete her clinical training, and she also achieved a Master of Arts degree from Cambridge. Initially, she worked as a GP in a deprived area of Newcastle, but the insight she had gained in how social and economic conditions influenced well-being led her to study epidemiology. That is, a study of what influences patterns of disease and health and well-being in a population. I found when I came across this a great empathy with Dame Anne, because I did the same thing. I was a surgeon for many years, and when I moved across the road to become a consultant at the Royal Infirmary, I began to see the consequences of inequality in the community. So I gave up surgery and went off and did public health like Dame Anne. So the two of us really see the world in a very similar fashion. She was interested particularly in infectious diseases, and in the 1980s we were experiencing an outbreak of a new virus, the human immunodeficiency virus, HIV. AIDS was spreading rapidly in sections of the population, and her work on the pattern of sexually transmitted diseases undoubtedly helped limit spread across the population. She has continued since then to research the epidemiology and prevention of sexually transmitted infections and other infectious diseases over the past 30 years. She co-directed the Medical Research Council, UK Centre for Coordinating Epidemiological Studies of HIV and AIDS, and she set up and was principal investigator of the first national study of sexual attitudes and lifestyles. Her work has also included the study of transmission of many organisms, including influenza viruses, Ebola viruses, and COVID. She was director of University College London Institute for Global Health. She chaired the Medical Research Council's Population Health Sciences Group, was a member of the UK Committee on Climate Change. She has been awarded the prestigious Alwyn Smith Prize for her contribution in public health in 2017, and in 2013 she was made Dame Commander of the British Empire for her contribution to the study and control of infectious diseases. Here at Strathclyde we have used many of our scientific approaches to creating well-being that Dame Anne has been associated with in our efforts to create well-being across an unequal society. We are delighted she is joining the Strathclyde family. Principal, with the authority of Senate, I ask you to confer upon Dame Anne Johnson the degree of Doctor of Science honoris causa.
Dame Anne, I create you Doctor of Science honoris causa. We are proud to have you associated with us. Many congratulations and welcome to the Strathclyde family.
Thank you. Good morning. First of all, Principal, graduates, ladies and gentlemen, parents and friends, and Sir Harry, thank you so much for the invitation here today, and sincerely thank you for the award of this honorary doctorate. I also add my hearty congratulations to all those who are graduating today, who have all worked so hard for their degrees. But I think we all know, all of us who are graduates know, that we haven't arrived only here by our own efforts. We've depended on love and support, a family and friends, and the skill of teachers. And I'd like to thank my wonderfully supportive, and I have to say tolerant family, and I'm delighted to be joined by my husband and friends today. It's a particular honour for me to be recognised by such an outstanding and progressive Scottish university in the vibrant city of Glasgow. And one of the things that struck me about Strathclyde is the way it brings together science, engineering and the humanities to really deal with some of the critical issues we face today. Climate change, the built and natural environment, new medicines and diagnostics, many of which you graduating today are involved in those areas, bioengineering and the effective and ethical use of AI. And all of these are things that we would call useful learning, advocated by your university founder, John Anderson, in 1796. Now, I guess many of the graduates here today have an absolutely clear idea of your future careers? No, well, I just wonder, I certainly didn't, and you were well ahead of me in the 1970s, and it would have been a great mistake for me to have decided what I was going to do, because most of the things that I've studied over my career hadn't even appeared in human populations, infections in human populations when I graduated. But I did have, as you've heard, the opportunity to study social and political sciences en route. And so I began to understand the impact of social and economic environments on health, And indeed, in the 19th century, the engineers did a lot more for health than the medics. They put sewers under the ground and they put clean water in the taps, and TB was reduced dramatically, not by medicines. Long before medicines and vaccines was reduced by housing, by better food, and subsequently, of course, by vaccinations and treatment, but a lot of the change came before that. But my big opportunity, and I think it is so important to be looking for opportunities as one goes ahead, as we've heard from Sir Harry, was studying HIV/AIDS. But it's extraordinary in my career to have seen a disease which literally killed people within 6 months with AIDS without treatment become an entirely treatable condition where people can have an almost normal lifestyle. But you can only achieve that globally, where we're now seeing reduced cases of HIV, by the kind of collaborative working with many disciplines working together to create medicines that work, to generate international funding for treatment and prevention, to challenge stigma and to promote education. But much of that effort and progress is now challenged. How quickly the tides of optimism can turn. Recent cuts in international funding of HIV and other treatment services in the poorest and worst afflicted parts of the world are now threatened, and some research and treatment programs closed overnight. Now, all of us know from our experience of the pandemic that the pandemic, a generalized pandemic, has massive effect. It must have affected many of the graduates here today in their learning and university life. But it drove remarkable scientific change. It's changed the way we live, the way we work, and the way we teach. But it's also warned us of our frailty in the face of emerging infections and the wider impact on education and health and the economy. But when you think about that response, so much of it depended on innovation coming from the universities, multidisciplinary education, alongside the collective efforts of society to accept restrictions, participate in vaccine trials, and work with the NHS. So it's very worrying to read about disinformation and lack of trust in science. So all of us who've had a university education and the universities need to be at the heart of providing robust evidence and setting out clearly not only what we do know, but also what we don't know, and also how we will try and find out and fill the gaps in our knowledge and find tractable solutions. Improving health and society and this custodianship of our beautiful blue planet needs the kind of cutting-edge research which you see here in Strathclyde, alongside that useful learning that can be applied. And we turn now to the future engineers who are being trained here, the biomedical sciences who are graduating today, for new diagnostics and devices, to civil engineers and architects for building greener houses and cities, and social scientists such as you have here looking our best to use AI for public good. We never know where our future paths will lead, but you've heard in my life how a university education offered me much more than formal studies, and it also provides so much through work and play and the contacts of colleagues. And these experiences, in ways which we won't understand now, will shape our future, help us seize the opportunities before us, and change our ambitions, achievements, and values. A degree from Strathclyde is a fantastic step along the path, which I hope will be one of joy and fulfillment for everybody graduating today. But wherever life takes us, I suspect we will always owe the greatest debt of gratitude, as I do, to family and friends who support us. So, on behalf of the graduates, I'd like to applaud all those who are here to support us today. And my sincere thanks to the graduates and my immense thanks to the university for my honorary degree. Thank you.
Principal and Vice-Chancellor, in the name of the University and by the authority of Senate, I present to you these students. For the degree of Master in Science in Biochemistry, Thomas Allen Michael Cowney. Ellie McGarry. In Immunology, Cara McGee. In Microbiology, Kacper Gabriel Krusowski. Ross Martin. Craig Joseph Orr. In Pharmacology, Katie McGill. Cameron James McAlpine. For the degree of Bachelor of Science in Biochemistry and Immunology, Paul French. Amber Chloe Hutchison. Camille Kanarek. Olivia Leslie Page. Hannah Jane Stevenson. Erin Jean Toy. In Biochemistry and Microbiology, Leslie Addo. William Welsh Kerr. Rebecca Mitchell. In Biochemistry and Pharmacology, Harry Chadwick. Nathan George Houghton. Lorna Joan Isabel Hay. Grace Houston. Grace Kelly. Sarah Kahn. Keir Watson McGonigal. Helena Maya Oldroyd. Dylan Patterson. Rebecca Erin Roy. Anna May Scott. Lewis Stewart. Titu Divine Gift Uka. Liam Willis. In Biological Sciences, Emily Rebecca Davidson. Scott Cameron McMillan. Barbara Ann Ray. Ariane May Salamanca. In Biology with Teaching International, Ahad Hassan Ali Al-Balushi. Ryan Abdul Nabi Murad Ali Al-Balushi. Rahaf Mohammed Abdul Rahim Al-Kindi. Maria Mohammed Salim Al-Mazrui, Iyad Rashid Hamdan Al-Saidi. In biomedical science, Gwyneth Adumwa. Suleiman Ahmed. Sarah Hasib Abdul Fattah Al-Zabi. Amna Ali. Basma Al-Mulki. Jennifer Baxter. Andrea Brash Reynoso. Barnaby Brock. Mary Campbell. Chan Yuing Fong. Semra Shinza Chowdhury. Katie Ellen Clay. Zara Hannah Cowan. Jerry Darrach. Molly Gami. Rachel Helen Harness. Eric Namdi Igweke. Emma Jones. Holly Kozicki. Caitlin Leebody. Katie Ann Lovett. Xingyu Lu. Brianna Mackay. Kiva Danu Latamakaski. Nikki Ann Monaghan. Amber Caitlin Monarch. Honor Tadiwanashe Makushi. Esosa Goodness Urumwense. Lewis Rankin. Catherine Lydia Roberts. Leila Azra Riles. Rawia Salama. Emily Isabella Salmon. Anya Jasmine Scully. Abigail Simpson. Danielle Alana Snow. Sana Sultan. Milena Shizovska. Maria Amelia Wagrowska, Holly Wright, Grace Young, Bushir Ahmed Ali Yusuf, in immunology and microbiology, Niamh Ferguson Beaton, Jasmine Cartmail, Erin Robertson Kavanagh, in immunology and pharmacology, Logan Ikenes Black, Mia Isabel Blackley, Amy Victoria Brown, Claudia Catherine Brunga, Charlotte Victoria Comber, Caris Maria Cowan, Abby Elizabeth Davidson, Sarah Elise Henderson, Ewan William Lang, Baxter Gregory McCallum, Sophie McCann, Amy Jane McInnes, Ailey Elizabeth Lily Michi, Dayum Ali Mohsen, Madeline Montgomery, Gemma Murdoch, Tessa Marie Old, Eliza Sami, Hannah Freya Sheridan, Tegan Spence, Gemma Elizabeth Summers, Muhammad Ibrahim Tariq, Lily Tosh, Emily Claire Alice Walker, Brooke Angela Watson, Thomas Joseph Robinson Welsh, Rosie Willis, in microbiology and pharmacology, Kirk Franks, Joseph McKinnon, Chloe McGarvey, Ashley Mena, Madeline Shearer, Kira Whiteford, In immunology and pharmacology, Diana Ingabire.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's give the class of 2025 a big round of applause. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, and now to our wonderful Strathclyde graduates, let me reiterate our warm welcome to this fantastic ceremony, a day that none of you will forget, because it marks the successful conclusion of your hard work, and now you've graduated in front of your proud families, your friends, supporters, and indeed your classmates. And today we welcome visitors from across Scotland, from throughout the UK, and of course from a wonderful international community too. We're delighted to see all of you here to join in our celebrations. And as you complete your time here now at Strathclyde, please remember that you're graduating from an institution that prizes freedom of thought, and we encourage that. We're a place that seeks to be both tolerant and inclusive, and where people of diverse national, cultural and social backgrounds come together here to enjoy excellent education and a shared student experience. And here at Strathclyde, we all benefit from having students and staff from around 130 different countries. Ours seeks to be a socially progressive community, an exemplar for modern society, if you will, because we're proud to be plural, multicultural, and wherever we can be enlightened too. It's our responsibility, graduates, it's your responsibility to continue to challenge unacceptable practices, including by those in power, by using reason and by exemplifying the very best features of a diverse and inclusive society. We can't be blind to the fact that we see the horror of war and the conflict that we're witnessing across the world just now. And that means that all of you should aim to be part of the next generation of more enlightened leaders. We certainly need that. The illegal war that's still waging in Ukraine by Russia, the humanitarian disaster that continues to unfold in Gaza, and the danger now of escalating hostilities between Israel and Iran, and now USA's involvement, means that we are facing more risk and uncertainty. That is true. However, never underestimate the opportunity that you have for personal impact and the democratic influence that you can bring to bear on our policymakers. Nonetheless, and most importantly, we're here today to acknowledge your hard work, the learning that you've built up, and the successful completion now of your degree course. As already has been referenced, this will be your passport to making a full contribution to your career and to society, in spite of the flux and uncertainty that we're currently facing. You'll recall that just a few short years ago, Glasgow had the pleasure and privilege of hosting COP26, the summit of world leaders that came together to agree measures to minimise global warming and climate change. So the world came to Glasgow, and Glasgow presented itself to the world. And during the conference, I had the pleasure of meeting with Michael Bloomberg and John Kerry to talk about what we were doing here in Scotland and the UK, but also to hear their views and the need for alignment between policymakers, investors, and indeed academics and industry. We also had the deep privilege of hosting former US President Barack Obama here on campus. And he came here to speak with young people and activists about the critical role that your generation must have in tackling climate change. You may imagine, given the requirement for security, nothing much was posted about Mr. Obama coming here. But through the powers of social media, once he was here, just about everyone knew about it. But he spoke to the students. I had the privilege of talking to him too. And as he left our campus after a few hours of debate, he turned on the steps of our learning and teaching building and addressed the hundreds that had turned up to say goodbye to him. And they'd gathered outside that building. And he stood on the steps and said two simple words. And it was, "Get active." And I encourage all of you now, our graduates, to get active. Active in your careers, of course, and whatever you choose to do. And seek to make a difference in your personal lives and in your careers. To be bold and to go ahead and apply yourselves. Thomas Edison, a fellow electrical engineer, said that genius is 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration. I'm sure your mix is a little bit better than that. And I recognise that. I was brought up here in Glasgow, just on the other side of the Clyde, in a sunny hamlet called Govan. And that town's historical motto is "Nihil sine labore," or nothing without hard work. And I try to embrace that ethos every day. And I would recommend to all of you, take a similar approach in your future careers. You are smart, you're accomplished, you're ambitious, but work hard, please. Make a difference and make sure that you have that impact that you're so capable of doing. Because today you now become Strathclyde alumni, and you're now the latest of the university's torchbearers, just like those from generations of graduates that have gone before you. And with all that you've successfully come through now, I'm sure you would agree, and Dame Anne already mentioned it, that you couldn't have done this without the backing and encouragement of the community of supporters that have been around you. It's fitting, of course, that we acknowledge their part in the successful completion of your university studies. Our graduates and the university at large indeed owe them an enormous debt of gratitude. And as the first in my own family to have attended university, as it happens here at the University of Strathclyde, I am very well aware of the importance of such support. So, to our graduates and to our staff here on the stage, please join me in saying a big thank you to those that have made today possible. Thank you indeed. Stage today, we have our excellent academic staff, our support staff, and we have senior members of our governing body, our court. This is a very important day for them because ultimately your success is their reward. And Strathclyde has indeed worked hard to provide you with a high-quality education and a first-class university experience for all of our students, regardless of background. So, to our graduates and to the families and friends that are here, join me now, please, in saying a big thank you for our staff and their efforts. So as you leave us today, it's important that you take away with you the knowledge that we were founded in 1796. We are now 229 years old, although I like to think of us as a 200-year-old startup, retaining that same sense of purpose, innovation, and entrepreneurial spirit as in the time of our establishment. And throughout our history, the University of Strathclyde has remained faithful to our founding principles. We were established, and I quote, in the language of the day, for the benefit of all mankind. And we were the only higher education institution to be established in Scotland during the time of the Enlightenment. Indeed, we're the 8th oldest higher education institution in the UK. And that's a real distinction for Strathclyde. And we try to continue to deliver our university strategy in that same founding, exciting spirit, making it wholly relevant for the 21st century. And we make many contributions to society, but you, graduates, you're our most important contribution to society, most lasting, most impactful, and those that we are most proud of. Our founder, John Anderson, who was a physicist or natural philosopher, he was also quite a good engineer as well, I have to say. He had strong links with Benjamin Franklin, the American inventor and academic. And Franklin was one of the founders of the University of Pennsylvania in 1751 under the motto of useful knowledge. And what was going on during the Enlightenment and his correspondence with Franklin inspired Anderson. And he wanted to create a place of useful learning. And now, over 200 years later, never has that philosophy been so relevant. Our motto, known by all of our staff and students, and carry it with you, please, still defines our purpose as a leading international technological university that is committed, wherever we can be, is to be socially progressive. For example, across our campus and in the buildings that you'll have passed today on the way to the Barony Hall, our academics, our researchers and our students are developing drugs to diagnose and fight disease. For example, we have several drugs on clinical trials in the areas of cancer diagnosis and treatment, kidney disease, infection management and inflammatory diseases. Strathclydeers are producing energy technologies and policy solutions to tackle climate change and to establish a low-carbon economy. We are revolutionising global manufacturing, much quoted over the past 24 hours in the new UK industrial strategy. And we're helping to create that fourth industrial revolution, so-called Industry 4.0, through robotics, AI and process automation. Our students continue their work in low-income countries, establishing clean water and power supplies, deploying healthcare systems in remote communities, and introducing new telecommunications infrastructure. They're transferring knowledge and bringing prosthetic limb and bioengineering technologies to those in need. And of course, as well as science, engineering, technology and humanities, we need to inform public policy here in the UK and internationally on education, health, innovation, energy and much more. And our staff in the £100 million Technology and Innovation Centre down on George Street, they're working with industry on energy, photonics and pharmaceuticals, where SIBS, the Strathclyde Institute for Pharmacy and Biomedical Sciences, are deeply involved. I've already mentioned Thomas Edison, the well-known American inventor. He called his technical teams in his laboratories his inventions factory. Well, TIC has become Scotland's innovations factory, driving change and opportunity throughout Scotland and into the UK more generally. And we've further reinforced Strathclyde's leadership by having created the first innovation district in Scotland here in the heart of Glasgow, the Glasgow City Innovation District, working with Scottish Enterprise, UK Government, Chamber of Commerce and many, many companies on medtech, fintech, quantum technology, AI, advanced communications and space technology. Few folk know that outside California, here in and around Glasgow, is the largest satellite manufacturing capability in the world, with about 130 companies working in these technologies, many of them working here at the University of Strathclyde. And many invest in this vision of ours, built on John Anderson's legacy, built on the vision of Sir Sam Curran, who established us as a university in 1964. Dr. Charles Wang, a name that you may not be familiar with, was involved in deploying the tests for COVID during the pandemic. A double graduate from Strathclyde, MBA and PhD. He donated £50 million here just about 3 years ago, investing in that vision of translation of research and educational excellence into impact, that useful learning motto that meant so much to him. And as well as the city-based innovation district, we've also created the advanced manufacturing district out at Glasgow Airport. So when you're heading off on your holidays or in business in the next few weeks, look to the north-east of the runway and you'll see a large, currently rather anonymous building, which we'll do something about soon, a large purple building with a serrated roof with another building adjacent to it. That's the National Manufacturing Institute for Scotland and the Medicines Manufacturing Innovation Centre that we deliver with CPI here in the UK, establishing Scotland's advanced manufacturing capabilities that were given up so easily over the past 40 years. Well, Strathclyde has been the catalyst to repurpose much of what's being done there and now bringing in major investment and adding about £1 billion gross value add to the Scottish economy. So, fueled by our commitment to useful learning, we do provide business and industry with the tools that they need to be more innovative, to be productive, to promote economic growth, but also in that just transition to bring society with us. And that helps to create jobs and provide us all with a better quality of life that is both sustainable and healthy. But most importantly, we are providing people with the opportunity to transform their lives and the lives of their families. And as I mentioned earlier, we still attract many first-generation university students here to Strathclyde. And that's some of the reasons why which we've had a terrific sequence of independent recognition of what we do and how we do it. In recent years, we've had several acknowledgements from the Times Higher Education Awards, the sector Oscar Awards, if you like. We're the only university in the UK that's won the UK University of University of the Year twice, the past decade or so. Sunday Times named us 3 years ago the Scottish University of the Year. Not acknowledging just what we are doing, but how we do things in partnership with others. Strathclyde was named Scottish University of the Year in 2024 and runner-up to Imperial in the inaugural Daily Mail University League tables last year, and we've maintained that top 10 position throughout. And just last week, I was delighted to see that Strathclyde saw the biggest rise of any UK institution in this year's QS World Rankings universities, comfortably placing us into the world's top decile of universities, but universities that are making an impact on society and the economy. And these awards reflect the breadth and depth of activities in our university and across the faculties, not least the Faculty of Science. So we are proud to try and continue to make a disproportionate impact, principally through all of you, our excellent graduates and postgraduates, but also in the quality of our research, its relevance, and the highly effective ways through which we create value and impact, translating our knowledge to the benefit of society, to our industry, and our public sector partners. And we're a driver for sustainable economic growth. And Strathclyde does have a distinct role in that key national objective. The university sector is facing many headwinds just now, to use a euphemism. Financial, policy impacts, the geopolitical instability that we're facing. But we've been around for 200 years. The sector in the UK has been around for 500, 600 years. So we've come through many turbulent times. But just now we are facing challenges. But we must be seen on behalf of the nation as an investment, not a cost, generating great graduates into society and the world, producing new knowledge and new ideas, and working with others to make the place much better and more sustainable. And certainly, the achievements of your faculty, and SIBS in particular, gives me great confidence for the future. And I give you some very few highlights. In fact, in SIBS, melding that science and engineering technology, has just created the world's first fully 3D printed microscope in under 3 hours for less than £50. A fraction of the cost of traditional devices. Using publicly available designs, our scientists produced this microscope's frame and clear plastic lenses that they designed using low-cost, accessible 3D printers. Also, the Centre for Continuous Manufacturing and Crystallisation is monitoring and driving forward and innovating new methods to produce medicines, going beyond the 200 years of batch processing to new innovative processes. And we have a major programme underway now for the past decade, led out of SIBS, driving these new technologies to revolutionise the pharma industry. In maths and stats, we've found that current models for assessing risks for women with preeclampsia do not perform adequately. And Strathclyde, a partner in a major national programme with nearly 9,000 women having been studied in 12 countries, pregnancies were seen to be complicated by pregnancy hypertension or high blood pressure. And we've now discovered 2 new tools for assessing these risks and making sure that the lost reliability of performance weren't repeated, something that makes a difference to people's lives. And in pure and applied chemistry, an emerging drug discovery company at Strathclyde has received a share of multi-million-pound investments from a collaborative cystic fibrosis drug discovery programme. They've received the Cystic Fibrosis Antimicrobial Resistance Syndicate investment for its work to identify new compounds with the potential to treat lung fungal infections in patients with cystic fibrosis, and much, much more. And I commend the Dean of Engineering, Professor Duncan Graham, who's on the stage with us himself, award-leading researcher, leading this group into more and more impact. So, this is the exciting context in which you should view your awards. You're now graduates of a university that places our students, and of course all of you are graduates, at the heart of everything that we do. We value excellence in both education and research, and we create strong connections with society and the business world. And with regard to internationalisation, the world's best universities contribute, collaborate, and they compete on the international stage. And we're no different. We have many high-quality international strategic partners, North America, and I've had the benefit of visiting them all this year so far, in Stanford, New York University, and MIT. In China, we work closely with Peking and Tsinghua universities and the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology, and a raft of partnerships across the EU. The soft power of universities has managed us to attenuate some of the worst effects of Brexit through that collaboration, that exchange, and that ongoing shared purpose of education and research, and we will continue to do just that. And we also have created a Middle East campus in Bahrain, something that has occupied me over the past 48 hours to make sure that we kept our staff and our students safe there, whilst we saw some of the effects of the exchange between Iran, Israel and America. But thankfully, if the ceasefire is to be held, we can get back to business in the next week or so. But of course, our students also benefited directly from being part of an international university, helping you to emerge with the skills necessary for yourselves, for Scotland and those countries that you will seek to pursue your careers in. And our students have been exposed to the richness and the value of different cultures and traditions. And most importantly, you're leaving here understanding your obligations as global citizens. And we've talked about being socially progressive. We remain the leading Scottish research-intensive university for widening participation in our programmes. Students coming from some of the most challenged communities in Scotland, communities that I belong to, and proudly so. Over 1,300 have joined us this year, within which over half come from the most challenged quintile, the communities that face the greatest challenges. In the same period, we've achieved the joint 5th highest entrance qualifications in the UK, making a nonsense of any statements that standards can be damaged by opening your door widely for those of capability and ambition. And earlier this month, we talked about this as being the first graduation ceremony of the season. Actually, a month ago, we graduated our young Strathclyders this year. We're engaging with about 20 schools in the immediate Glasgow area. Kids aged 5 to 12 came along wearing their gowns like you, wearing their mortar boards, some of them skipping along the stage with me trying to cap them as they bounced past me. And they became graduates of the Young Strathclyder programme. And as I say often, I particularly enjoy those programmes because it's one of the few graduation ceremonies where I nearly look tall. It's wonderful. And we're stimulating this year 500 of those youngsters getting on to think about universities being a place for them. Their mothers and fathers in the hall, most of whom have never crossed the threshold of a university, telling them widening participation and access is an obligation on my part, not something we do on some charitable basis. So let me conclude by characterising your university, Strathclyde, in 2025. We're distinctive, we have ambition, focus and momentum, and we continue to work, as we must do, with agility and commitment to navigate the continuing challenges in the sector and the political and economic uncertainties that we're facing. It's a great privilege for me to lead this outstanding institution with the fantastic support I get from our executive team as well as from a broader community of academics, professional services and support staff. And I would like to believe that our founder, John Anderson, and our first principal, Sir Sam Curran, who was part of the Oppenheimer team, would see this as an epitome of what they sought to achieve, truly a place of useful learning. And to all of you here in the Barony Hall, I'm certain that today's graduates will have an enormous impact in society and that 2025 can truly be a vintage year. You've shown commitment, great application, and ultimately you've achieved success, and hopefully you've had a little fun along the way. We're all very proud of you. So with that in mind, remember you're now leaving us since 1964. You're now joining a group of almost 250,000 Strathclyde graduates since our charter in 1964. That's quite a family you're joining. But remember that whatever you do with your degree and wherever you decide to pursue your career, truly useful learning means that you should apply your knowledge for the benefit of others. Try to make a positive impact for yourselves and the communities that you belong to. Respect diversity, value freedom of expression and thought, and please reach conclusions and resolve disputes through reason and tolerance, because these characterise the core values of your university. So we're all here to mark the achievements of these fantastic graduates today. On behalf of the university, I'd like to extend my sincere congratulations to each and every one of you and wish you every success in your future careers. Remember to stay in touch with us and let us know about your progress. So well done again, and please enjoy the rest of this very special day. Thank you. I talked about advanced communications earlier on. We have just used some more traditional communications. I just got the thumbs up from the back of the hall, which means it stopped raining. So the risk we're going to take is once we close the ceremony, we shall process, if you'll allow the stage part to process, the students will join us and then the family and friends. We're going to invite you to join us in the Learning and Teaching building for some refreshments and a reception. So I hope you've enjoyed the ceremony as much as we have. Well done to the graduates. If you'll now be upstanding, I declare the congregation closed. Thank you very much.